Are you ready for rapid fire?
Let's do it.
Okay. So, fill in the blank. Notre Dame men's basketball getting a commitment today from Lehigh forward Burke Chebuhar is blank.
Is a great depth piece to the roster. Again, I don't see this as, someone who's going to come in and be an impact player playing, 30 minutes a game, giving you 10 points a game, that sort of stuff. I think more importantly, what's going on that Micah Shrewsbury is doing is he's just building depth outside of his starters, and he's getting guys that I think are going to play a certain brand of basketball. Because, in the 32 games that he played last season, he started 22, averaged 7.5 points and 5 rebounds. And again, that is at Lehigh. You would anticipate, the competition to be better. I just think he's a really, really quality player coming off the bench. I don't think he's got starter minutes in him. He doesn't have a starter impact in him, but I think he's going to do enough, play the way Micah Shrewsbury wants him to play, and he's going to fit into the system very nicely.
And that's the most important thing. We found that out last year. Play the way Micah Shrewsbury wants him to play and fit into the system. He's 6'8", so he's not a giant, but he gives him some nice size to go along with Konstantinovsky, the 6'10" guy that they added earlier this week, that they got a commitment from earlier this week. What's interesting about this guy, Burke Chebuhar, he started his career at a Division III school, transferred to Lehigh, and was a walk-on in his entire time at Lehigh. Played 11 games in each of his first 2 seasons, kind of like mop-up, walk-on type minutes. And then this year, comes off the bench in the first 10 games, becomes a starter down the stretch, and, starts hitting double figures. And, he scored in double figures. I think it was like 10 times, like 7 out of the last 10 games he hit double figures. He was 20-plus points 3 times. So I don't expect him to come in and light it up in the ACC this season. But like you said, he's going to play the way Micah Shrewsbury wants, and he's going to be a nice piece to the program that Shrewsbury continues to build here at Notre Dame. And they now have added 3 guys via the transfer portal. Matt Aloko, Nikita Konstantinovsky, the big man earlier this week from Monmouth and Tulsa before that, and now this guy Chebuhar as well. So they continue to add via the portal. So again, we did a lot of the we in, we out questions in the main segment of the show today, and the only way that you can give us those we in, we out questions is by going to the Champions board and posting them there. But there were actually a few that came in late last week, well after we had done the show, that people continued to add to the board that I wanted to bring into this show here today. So Marcus Freeman wins a national championship before Ryan Day. In or out on that one, Jess?
I'm just going to say we out. And I don't think this is a knock on Marcus Freeman or Ryan Day. I just think Ryan Day is a little bit further along in the process. So for that reason, I just think that, again, playing probabilities, Ryan Day would have a higher chance at it happening first. Now that I don't know what Michigan is going to look like now that Harbaugh is gone. I think that definitely helps someone like Ryan Day. And I just think that their path to the national championship is a little bit easier too, because the best Notre Dame can do is a 5. Ohio State could potentially be the number 1 seed in the entire thing, get a bye, all of the above. So I just have to say, again, looking at probabilities and the path to get there, I think that Ryan Day has a slight advantage.
I'm going to go in on this one. I think that Marcus Freeman will get there first. And like Andrew has been on point with most of his points here tonight. Day has a quarterback problem, could be staring down 2 regular season losses. I mean, they did go out. They had to go to the transfer portal, get the Kansas State quarterback this year. A lot of people think that he's going to be, he's like the best quarterback transfer in the country. Okay, let's see. But it's not going to be any easier now after they after they packed all these teams into the Big Ten. Like you said, okay, is Michigan going to be down? Probably. Penn State is still going to be there. And now you're also adding Washington, Oregon, and USC to the mix. And so it's not going to be, it is a harder path now for Ohio State than what it used to be to get to the playoff. Now, should they make it as an at-large in most seasons, even if they don't win the conference? Yes, with a 12-team playoff format, but it's not getting any easier for Ryan Day, and he hasn't won a championship by himself. Their last championship was obviously when Urban Meyer was there, and in the meantime, the arc is going in the right direction for Marcus Freeman and for Notre Dame. He has improved Notre Dame's quarterback recruiting, whereas Ryan Day is having a harder time with the quarterback recruiting there. He lost Tony Alford, a great recruiter himself and a great position coach himself, to Michigan. So I'm going to go in. I'm going to say, yes, Marcus Freeman will win a championship before Ryan Day. Like you said, are the odds in Ryan Day's favor? Yeah, just because a couple of other coaches have won national championships since Notre Dame has won its last, but I think that Marcus Freeman gets there first. Next question. The Notre Dame offense is so explosive, they'll have two legitimate candidates for a Heisman Trophy this year. In or out on that?
So legitimate candidates to me would be top five, and it's probably going to be a quarterback and wide receiver duo. And that probably means you're the best team in the country. You're making a run at the whole thing as well. So I'm going to say we out because I think one is my legitimate answer.
Same. We out on this. I think Riley Leonard will be. I think that he'll be in the conversation much later than Sam Hartman was in the conversation last year. But I think that it is just too hard, especially considering, again, like if you look at track record, past history, and all that different stuff, it has been very far and few, between that Notre Dame has been able to have legitimate Heisman Trophy contenders. So I think they'll have one in the quarterback, but I've got to be out on having two. Again, Brett, this is rapid fire, but we're using some we in, we out questions that came in late last week as some of these topics so that we can get them in here tonight. The Notre Dame defense is rated top 5 or better by the end of the year in all categories, and one of their elite linebackers wins the Butkus Award this year. In or out on that one?
That is a very loaded question. I feel like it should be 2 questions instead of 1 because you're basically saying, are they going to be top 5 and blah, 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 and have someone win the Butkus? I'm out on both. I don't think that they have – they're going to be top 5 in majority categories. I don't think that they will be, top 5 in every single one. I think the one that's most important is team defense. I think there will be a top 5 team defense. I don't think they're going to be a top 5 run defense. And I just don't think that they're too young for a Butkus, in my opinion.
I agree. I think that they're like another year away from potentially having that. Maybe Drake Bowen or KVA next year is in that conversation, but I don't think that it happens this year. JOK was obviously their last Butkus Award winner. And even like he says, the defense will be rated in the top 5 or better by the end of the year in all categories. I mean, that's
a lot.
There are a lot of categories out there. So I've got to be out on that as well. I think they're going to be really good, but I don't think they hit either one of those marks this year. Irish fans will swear less during the live game message boards this year. In or out on that?
I'm going to say in because I think the team is going to be better this season. And naturally, when you are better, you are in a better spirit and less cussing happens. So as long as they keep winning, which I anticipate this season and going to the playoff, then I don't see any reason. So I'm going to go with we in.
Yeah, I'm in on it as well based on that rationale. I think it's going to be a lot better season. The question is, I'm not watching the boards when stuff goes wrong because I do watch Twitter in a lot of those cases, and a lot of people overreact early. If Notre Dame is not blowing out a team that they are supposed to, quote unquote, supposed to blow out in the first quarter or the second quarter, a lot of people get bent out of shape early on, and so they still go nuts. So I think in general there'll be less because Notre Dame should handle this schedule for the most part, but you still never know. Like if you're prone to that stuff, you're still going to do it, right? I know it was, like halfway joking or whatever. Another question about Iowa women's basketball that came in today. I figured that I would just save it for here. Lisa Bluter, their head coach, retired earlier this week. Do you think that as a result, they will not get past the first round of the NCAA tournament next season? Not just Lisa Bluter, but obviously Caitlin Clark being gone as well. Those two things contributing. What do you think about that?
I'm just going to say we end on that. I think losing both of those, a good coach and obviously one of the best women's college basketball players of all time, I think it is, and just the emotional turmoil, right? Like the emotional roller coaster being at the very, very highs. And now it probably seems like you're crashing down and completely in a valley, right? So I just think this is a big transition year for Iowa, so I don't see them getting past the first round.
Yeah, I'm definitely in on this as well. And like when you look at, like, it made total sense to me that Lisa Bluter would decide to retire after Caitlin Clark left. And she was there for like 25 years, made it past the first round 10 times before getting to the championship the last 2 years. She had been to a handful of Sweet 16s, one Elite Eight a few years back, but for the most part, it was either first round, second round, and now you're without Caitlin Clark. Your head coach retires. They did promote an assistant, so you have no idea how exactly she will do, but I would not anticipate them making any kind of deep run in the NCAA tournament. So I do believe that they will probably be out after the first round next year in the first season post Bluter, and of course, most importantly, Caitlin Clark. The one thing I am interested in seeing is if this, there were already stories before the Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark's season opener a couple of nights ago that the head coach down there was already trying to change Caitlin Clark and do all this, it's like you need to do this. And, like if they have they've had the first pick in the WNBA draft the last 2 years with Clark and then Boston last year. I would not be surprised if Lisa Bluter is basically kind of sits out a college basketball season this year, but maybe she ends up as head coach of the Indiana Fever a year from now. That would not shock me.
That's some good speculation there.
Yeah. So speaking of college basketball coaches, Wisconsin Green Bay has hired longtime radio host and former Notre Dame and Oklahoma State basketball player Doug Gottlieb to be its new men's basketball coach, with a catch. Gottlieb is going to continue to host his nationally syndicated radio show for Fox Sports while also coaching the Phoenix. Jesse, what could go wrong with this?
I think there is a mirage of things that could go wrong, but I want to believe that Doug Gottlieb is past that point in his life and career, right? And I think that the only thing that I could see as a potential, big thing that could go wrong is he just slips up on his show and says something that he's ultimately, not supposed to, or gives maybe too much information about something going on with the team. Like the boundary of coach and speculating and talking about things as still like a radio host. That's the only thing that I could see potentially going wrong. But that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work to be a full-time coach and be a radio personality.
And it's a 2-hour radio show every day, middle of the afternoon. I know he was on the Dan Patrick show the other day saying, hey, I'm the head coach. I set the schedule. Okay, well, there are a million other things that you're supposed to be doing as the head coach, especially a first-time head coach of a basketball program, like recruiting. And even when you're not out recruiting, you need to be directing your recruiting efforts. You need to be out pounding the pavement, seeing players, all these different things. And then obviously once you get into the season, you're taking 2 hours every day where you're on the air. But as we know, there's more than just the 2 hours you're on the air that go into it. There's prepping and, getting ready. And then you're going to go on the air and host a radio show while you're in the middle of the season on game days. And I just, and then even beyond that, the thing, once he goes on the air, Doug Gottlieb is a very opinionated person. So what is he going to have opinions about players and teams and coaches that he's playing against?
That's where I said it
well?
would get a lot of like dicey.
Yeah, exactly. I think this is just a time bomb waiting to happen. Doug Gottlieb thinks he can pull it off. I'm shocked that an AD would approve something like this.
That's
but
fair.
he went with a celebrity, basically. Yeah, you put that up there. He said probably because Gottlieb doesn't want to take a pay cut to coach. I mean, that's part of it as well. That will kind of offset some of that. So it'll be interesting to watch, but I'm just waiting for it to blow up. He's wanted to be a head coach. He interviewed for the same job a year ago, and the guy who was there just took the Wyoming job, and so they hired Gottlieb. So I don't know. Well, to me, it's just a huge time commitment when you're a first-time head coach trying to run a program like that. I know Doug Gottlieb has a huge ego, and he thinks that he can pull something like this off. I think it's going to be very difficult, though.
God's speed, brother.
So we talked about Notre Dame's Hard Knocks type show earlier. The New York Giants are going to be on HBO's Hard Knocks series for the first time this summer, and it's also going to be a little bit different. It's going to be the first off-season edition of the show. Hard Knocks off-season with the New York Giants. It's going to premiere July 2nd as well. Do you buy or sell New York Giants off-season Hard Knocks?
I buy off-season Hard Knocks. I sell the fact that it has to be the Giants. I think it's a cool idea. I mean, it's more insight on like OTAs, rookie camp, all of that stuff before you essentially get to preseason and when the, next Hard Knocks would kick in. I mean, I have to give credit to Hard Knocks, though. Like, they are doing a great job of really stretching this thing out. First, it was just, the beginning of this training camp. Now we have an in-season. Now we have a preseason. I think they're just getting a lot of feedback that people are going to eat this stuff up, no matter what it is. And so if you can give us insight to 3 different teams at 3 different stages of the season, it's a great idea. Again, I hate that it has to be the Giants.
We get to a couple of comments here in just a minute. So I'm going to buy it kind of because of what you're talking, I'm curious to see what they do with this off-season edition. The fact that they're debuting it on July 2nd, you do kind of question that, right around the 4th of July and all that kind of stuff, but it'll lead up to training camp. And then I assume they haven't announced who the training camp edition is going to be yet, but it's more football content. So I'll take it. I'll see what it's all about this first time, like if they're showing, OTAs and rookie minicamp and all that kind of stuff, kind of coming in. And obviously you're going to get to see even more behind the scenes stuff since there won't be an actual training camp going on at the actual time they're airing this stuff. So I'll buy it for now just to kind of see what it's all about, because I do enjoy the other Hard Knocks series, both training camp and in season. I thought last year when they went to Miami, it was the best in-season edition that they've done so far with Mike McDaniel and all that stuff down there. But so I'll be curious to see it. I'll go in on it. Like even though Tommy said F the Giants, okay. Like I'll still see what it's all about. DK, thanks for the super chat. He says, although I disagree with everything Jesse said tonight, I still support the Steyers, even though Sean didn't expose Jesse to Roadhouse. Thank you very much. Wade Garrett, it sounds like a new movie that we've got to get Jesse to see. I heard the remake stinks, but the original, classic. By the way, when Jesse came to town last week for Mother's Day weekend, we did do the Top Gun back-to-back, Top Gun and Top Gun Maverick. Vince is going to be with us on tomorrow's show, so we're going to get to some of that on tomorrow's show. Herrick says, Jesse, please crack a Pabst Blue Ribbon. You're so in that character mode today. I think they're enjoying all your eccentricities with your hair and your headsets and, your shirt unbuttoned down to the button, at the top and everything else that you got going.
Listen, it's been a long day, okay?
Uh-huh.
Golfed, worked, and then my favorite well, not favorite, but like my boss. Today was his last day, so there's going to be a lot of transition within the company that I'm not super excited about. But we forge on.
Speaking of DK, he is accusing you of acting like you attempt to pick up the tab when you go out to eat with your mom and I. How do you respond to that?
I pick it up when the occasion calls, but I'm not pump faking or anything. I'm not gonna go for the tab and then not pay for it. But when the occasion calls, I do pay. But nice part about going home is that's what you got parents for. They pick up the tab every now and then.
Can still do that when you're in your 20s. Andrew, going back to Gottlieb, asking what his credentials are. He says it's insulting to coaches. JJ Redick's going to get the Lakers job too, and that's kind of the same but different. He co-hosts that.
At least
podcast
JJ Redick played
LeBron.
in the NBA for 14 years,
right? But you're going to make JJ Redick the head coach of one of the most iconic franchises in all of sports, let alone the NBA, because he's podcast buddies with LeBron James. That, again, without any coaching experience, that seems a little odd. And I think that the LA media and the media at large is going to have a problem, even though hosting a podcast is much less time consuming than a daily 2-hour radio show. I think people are going to have a much bigger problem with JJ Redick if he continues to do a podcast once he becomes head coach of the Lakers, assuming he does become head coach of the Lakers.
I think there's still a lot up in the air around this whole Lakers situation. If LeBron stays in LA, I think there's a good chance he becomes the coach. But I think you got to see where Bronny gets drafted in a few weeks, because I think that's ultimately going to be a big kind of sway for
I mean,
LeBron.
Whoever drafting him, that's where LeBron's going to play next year, right?
I mean, he has made it very obvious that he wants to play at least one season with his
it's
son.
literally the only reason anyone has interest in Bronny being a draft entrant. That's it. Right?
He had a nice game the other day. I think they did at the combine. They did a scrimmage. He was 4 of 10 shooting, and had 15 points in about 20 minutes. So it's not like he's a dud, but obviously he's going to get more recognition, more praise, more overhype for a guy that really isn't ready to be in the NBA yet.
So we have even more New York Giants stuff to talk about. It's like the Giants are dominating.
Unfortunately, where's what's that guy's name? Mike. Is it Mike? Our guy
Michael Hahn.
Michael Hahn.
Yes. Yep, I haven't seen him pop in tonight. This is the most Giant stuff we've ever had to talk about tonight. Fill in the blank. It's blank. The Giants versus Panthers is the lone Munich, Germany game this season.
It is gross. They picked the two teams that no one care about, probably the two worst teams in the last 5 seasons of the NFL, and said, you know what? You guys go play each other over in Germany. And I thought that I saw a funny tweet about this, and of course it's a joke, but they were basically oh, Germany wasn't done getting the repercussions of World War II quite yet, because now they get the Giants and Panthers. I thought that was funny.
You'd be better off sending IMG against, what was the name of that team in Ohio?
School.
Yeah, the fake school in Ohio. You'd be better off. You'd be better off with that than this. This is just ugly. You're sending the Panthers over there, and you talk about the digging up the dregs. I mean, they're going to be hoping that Tommy DeVito is the quarterback of the Giants by the time this game takes place.
All I got to say is the people over in America don't even want to watch that game. So I hope that just because of the novelty in Germany, right? It's the one game they get to see a year. I hope that they sell that thing out, because I bet that there are more people paying attention in Germany than there are in the United States.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the Giants also, you talk about them grabbing some headlines this week. They unveiled their throwback uniform today. It's a 1925. I'll just go ahead and put it up here on the screen, but I need to describe it as well for the audio podcast listeners. 1925 tan red tan pants, red, white, and blue striped socks, 1933 red jersey with the big blue section around the midsection with white numbers, and a 1938 helmet design that's basically a Michigan ripoff. But instead of being maize and blue, the helmet is blue with the winged part of the helmet that is, maize on a Michigan helmet in red. So it's up here on the screen. What do you think about these New York Giants throwbacks, the hodgepodge from all different eras that they're putting together with this?
So, couple things. First, is the NFL going to reach out to Michigan for stealing their helmet, since it's a huge deal that the University of Houston was kind of using,
right,
Oiler-esque schemes? Is the NFL going to reach out and pay Michigan compensation? Should Michigan start suing
reparations?
The NFL?
Yes.
I had to get that off my chest first and foremost. But second, I like everything of these uniforms waist up. If they didn't go with the gold pants, I think the jerseys and helmets are really solid. I have nothing bad to say about the jerseys. I think they're pretty sweet. I just hate that. Like, why did we go with the gold pants? Like, I just don't.
They're tan. They're not even gold. They're
so
tan.
It's like they got drunk at the end and were like, what color pants do we want? And just closed their eyes and picked one. Like, again, jerseys are sweet, and all you had to do was pick maybe like a red pant or a white pant with a red and blue stripe going down the side of it. Like, there's so many other options.
We can't have stripes because it's
tan
like 1938 or 25 or whatever
answer.
It is. Yeah. What are the pants? Yeah, 1925 pants, and then 1933 jersey and a 1938 helmet design. And obviously they were wearing leather helmets back then that didn't have face masks. I tend to agree. It's all, when you put it all together, it's a bit busy. And the fact that you have a solid color sock with stripes on the socks as well, it's all just a little bit much when you put it all together. I don't mind the helmet. Even the jersey is a little bit busy because of the extra stripes and stuff that they have in there. But the tan pants have just got to go. Just got to go. I agree. But this is like, they're not as bad as those Bumblebee uniforms. Remember that? I think it was the Pittsburgh Steelers wore a few years back. Do you remember that with all the stripes that they had?
Yes, I do remember those. At least they stuck to like two colors.
Yep. So an interesting look. The New York Giants have, I don't know when they're going to wear these. You think maybe they'll wear them on Thanksgiving when they play the C-word team?
Probably in Germany would be my guess.
You think so?
Also, for anyone that is interested, we officially that are in the Cleveland area, we officially purchased
made the ticket purchase yesterday.
Our C's versus Browns tickets yesterday. Those are locked in. So, I think that's going to be a great time.
Locked and loaded, ready to go. USMA 87 was asking yesterday how much people would pay for a ticket to go see Notre Dame play at Texas A&M. And of course, Vince was out on that once, $1 came into the equation. So he couldn't believe that we were looking at over $400 a ticket to go see.
For Notre Dame and Texas A&M, I draw the line around $300. I have, how do I say this? I find it easier to spend a little bit more money on the Cowboys because I don't see the Cowboys nearly as often. And again, they're professionals.
And that's what I said. We only go like on average, maybe once every other year, probably once every 3 years or something.
Yeah, I'd say
like
once
that.
Every 2 to 3 years is a good running average.
Yeah. I think the last time we saw him was a few years back in Indy, right?
Yeah.
Or was the Bears game after that?
No, the Bears game was after that. But even that was, I was still in graduate school, and I've been out of grad school for going on 4 years now. So we haven't been to a game in like 4 years.
You missed it. You remember the super chat that came in at the end of the show 2 days ago?
Yeah, the 50 bomb.
Yeah, we talked about that. Salty and DK had an over-under wager. The over-under was 8 times we would say the C word. And apparently we said it 16 times. But none of them came until the very end. It was, the last question, right? 16 times. I've got to think. I'd have to go back and look at the tape, but I think that you got a majority of those C's in there.
Probably. If you get me going, I could probably give you 100.
You're right about that. I don't doubt that at all. Salty says 16 plus. Apparently they stopped counting after we got to
the bet
16.
was over at that point.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Well, that's going to do it for today's show. We will be back tomorrow. DT, as of now, I think the answer is probably no to me being in College Station. I believe Brian is going to make that trip. I believe.
Hey, we gotta wrap this thing up. I got some home run bets to place.
We do. Rapid fire show coming up tomorrow. Don't forget that's a 5:00 show. Vince will be here with Jesse and I both, so we will be doing that. We will see you then. Till then, hit the like button before you leave, and we will talk to you tomorrow on IB Nation Sports Talk.
And bet Brian Reynolds home run tonight.